A lot of people calling for the playoff system in NASCAR to change because fair to say not everybody was happy that Joey Logano won it because a lot of people were pointing out that I think if you averaged out his finishes, he was something like he would have been 15th, 13th in the
Yeah.
points, something like that. But he did what the playoffs are designed to do. He won at the right time. He made the most of, what he had there. But what do you think about the playoffs? Because it's changed a lot. I remember the days of the chase. I was
Yeah.
watching in the days of the chase and I really liked that. Basically 10 races at the end of the season. Whoever's the best in those 10 races wins the championship, more or less. But
Yeah.
nowadays, obviously, you've got the four different stages. You've got the final 16, the final 12, the fast eight, and then the fast four at the end. What do you think about it? Do you think it needs to change or should it even change?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think it becomes, in a strange way, it becomes a philosophical question. What does NASCAR want? What is their philosophy of racing? If we look at other forms of racing, um, the philosophy is put together a year. Give me a whole year of your best. And let's take that and let's take your finishes and let's take your points. And whoever, when we get to the end, the guy who's won the most, the guy who's run up front the most, the guy who's done the most is your champion. And it's not that way in NASCAR. It's not that way. The guy who wins the most races may not even make it to the round of eight. The guy who wins the most races may get kicked out in the first round. That's just the way it is, and
Mm.
that's the way it can be. And I'm not a big fan of that. I'm not a big fan of that because I think if you go back and look at it, I'm not sure under that format if Richard Petty or Dale Earnhardt or Jimmy Johnson or Jeff Gordon would have the amount of championships that they have. Because cup racing, especially having 36 races a year, is a year of streaks. A team will get on a streak, just like we saw Christopher Bell win three in a row. And then he's run good since then, but he's not really challenged for a lot of wins since then. We see a Larson knock off one every 3 or 4 races or 4 or 5 races. He's a little bit hotter. Denny Hamlin's been hot the last 3 or 4 weeks. He's run and led for the last 3 or 4 weeks. But by the time we get to the last 10 races of the season, they may be cold as ice. And
Mm.
then you have somebody like Joey Logano who gets hot in a 10 race stretch and wins the championship. And I understand what fans say. But what I would say back to fans from not appreciating what Joey Logano is hey, everybody knew the game when they went in February and started the year. Everybody knew what the rules were. Everybody knew how it was going to be played. They just got outplayed. They just got beat by Penske and got beat by Joey Logano. Sorry. So that's sour grapes a little bit when you say that. But I think there could be tweaks to it. And there's always been tweaks. My dad won 7 championships under 5 different point systems, I think, 5 or 6 different point systems. So they've constantly changed the point system. They've constantly changed the way they've done things. Just in recent years, as we went to the playoffs and the elimination rounds, it's become a little bit more controversial. And why that is, I don't know. And I have no clue. It's more like in our country, it's more like the NCAA tournament in basketball, where you can take a 16th seed who ends up making it to the round of four and the final. Would they be able to beat that team head to head during the course of the year? Probably not. But they get on a streak and they get hot and they can beat anybody. And that's kind of the way it is. So, yeah, I would like, having Larson, the glaring examples last year was Larson winning so many races and not being in the final four, and Joey not winning many races and winning the championship. So the juxtaposition of those two events during the course of the 2024 season really made it stick out to a lot of people who are not even race fans. So I would probably like to see it tweaked in some way. I don't like the one race, one shot take all. I would rather see those 4 guys run 3 races in a row, and whoever scored the most points in those last 3 races, yeah, maybe they're the champion. I could live with that a little bit better than a one shot race.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. I think having it as the chase like it used to be, I think that was potentially a better system because then at least it's a larger sample size. You've
Yeah,
got 10 races. But NASCAR, from the commercial side of things, will want to ensure that there's always a
yeah,
championship decider at the final race, and that is what they've done. So that will
yeah.
always happen now.
Yeah, and that's where it's tough in this day and time. And listen, everybody does it. Whether you're drag racing, whether you're Formula One with their TV series on Netflix, it's we are in the sports business that happens to be the entertainment business too. You know what I mean? The competitors all look at it as sport. Every competitor. If you walk into a race shop and you talk to a driver and you talk to a team owner, it's all about winning. It's about winning races. That's all I really give a rat's rear end about. Just win races, win races, win races. But then when you get to the sponsors and you get to NASCAR, it's like, well, how many people saw you win races?
Mm.
What was special about it? How can we make it bigger? How can we make it better? So that's where the entertainment and the sport kind of collide somewhere. And sometimes entertainment wins and sometimes sport wins. Um, the trick is to keep that balance and to keep it balanced on that fine edge, and be the most that you can for both sides.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've heard a few people say as well that, well, basically, if you're very good at Phoenix, you've got a very good chance of winning the championship because that's always the decider. But that's
Yeah.
changing next year. We're going back to Homestead for the final race of the season next year. And I think this is a good move, to be honest, because it's at least getting a bit of variety in there. At least it's not saying, well, you only won your championships
Yeah.
because you were very good around Phoenix. Like if we had
Yeah.
that format, I think it was Kevin Harvick who used to win there. If we had that format when Kevin Harvick was in his prime, he might have won 5 championships because he always won there.